It's 6:30. Good morning, I'm Ian Crouch with Hunter News. The Environment Protection Authority will finally be able to inspect the Williamtown RAF base for the first time since the contamination scandal broke more than 3 months ago. A defence officials told a Senate hearing yesterday the EPA hadn't been refused access, but admitted it had taken far too long for the visit to happen. The inquiry also heard how it's too early to talk about compensation for those affected by the contamination. Labor says hearing-impaired Hunter residents are set to be at risk of Australian Hearing falling into private hands as part of the federal government's upcoming plans. Australian Hearing operates throughout the country with more than 380 visiting centres and outreach centres for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Hunter MP Joel Fitzgibbon says a privately run hearing service would put patients in danger.
Well, if you hand over Australian Hearing to a private operator, they're going to cut, and they're going to cut much-needed services across the Hunter region. And indeed, we have seen in the past scams where people have been pushed into expensive technology which isn't really suitable or needed by them.
Hunter New England Health is warning about a rise in the number of swimmers coming down with a nasty bug. There have been 118 cases of cryptosporidiosis so far this year in the Hunter New England Health area, up from 50 over the same time last year. Anyone who's had diarrhoea is being urged to avoid swimming pools for at least 2 weeks as they recover to avoid spreading the illness. A Hunter farmer has joined calls to help landowners say no to mining. Jerry's Plains farmer Ian Moore has been to court to protect his farmland from coal mining exploration under a licence now found by the ICAC to have been issued corruptly. He's joining the Lock the Gate Alliance in calling for the government to reach an agreement at the COAG Energy Council to legislate legal rights for landholders and traditional owners to block mining corporations from their land. Steve Phillips from the Hunter Lock the Gate Alliance says it's not a level playing field between farmers and the mining giants.
It leads to severe distress for people. They lose their livelihoods, they lose everything they've worked for, and they really feel like it's them against the mining companies usually, which is not a fair fight at all.
An investigation into the favoured eating habits of fitness fanatics is being investigated in a study by the University of Newcastle. Little is known about the food choices of those who exercise regularly, while on the other hand, diets of overweight people have been widely explored. Researcher Dr. Tamara Butcher says the study hopes to identify common habits which can form the basis of nutritional recommendations.
We try to identify the eating patterns of healthy eaters, and we try to give specific recommendations to people who want to lose weight by exercising, and we also try to identify particular problems that are common.
Newcastle Lord Mayor Nuatali Nelms believes councillors spent the right amount of money on Christmas decorations for the city this year. It's forked out $88,000 on 5 floating trees in the fountain at Civic Park, with the lights to be switched on tonight. Councillor Nelms says it was part of the budget adopted by council last year and is entirely appropriate for the second largest city in the state to be ensuring we have good public civic events.
Sport, thanks to our sponsor, Warners Bay Sports Club.
Newcastle's Ben Kandarovski is set to start in his 100th A-League game for the Jets tonight when they take on Sydney FC at Allianz Stadium. The match will bring the 23-year-old one step closer to breaking the record for most games for the club, a record currently held by Tarek Elridge on 134. Kandarovski says it's a great accomplishment.
I'm probably very humble at this age to be starting my 100th game in the A-League, so I count my lucky stars that I've had the opportunity, and I've worked really hard at the same token to be where I am.
There are calls to update squash bylaws for next season after the Newcastle Spring Men's A-grade final finished tied. It was the first time a squash final ended in a draw in more than 30 years, with Cardiff and University declared joint champions. And former Warners Bay junior Paul Hunter has earned a shot at an AFL career. The 22-year-old ruckman was picked up by the Adelaide Crows as their first choice in this year's rookie draft. That's sport. I'm Georgia Moylan.
2 in your RFM News Time, 26 to 7.